about the format of how this session would work. I think our friend Praveen would be of little help here. Is it possible that the participants can also speak during the session? All right. I would request if we could see each other and we could speak. So, in the meantime, while that's being organized, once again, welcome. Today, we are discussing a short story by Anton Chekhov called The Bet. I hope that you've read the story, but even if you've not read the story, that's quite all right. A lot of people in law school never read for their classes. I'm sure that's at least a start of for some of you there. But nevertheless, in case you've read the story, uh, I would be asking you a couple of questions concerning the story, and I would really want to know your opinion. So I don't want to go through a traditional format of a book review or a book discussion where I completely drone through the discussion, through the review, but rather I would want it to be an interactive session as far as possible. So I can see some of your names who've joined in. The chat box is on. Please feel free to sort of, keep on sharing your thoughts as we go along. But in the meantime, I'll just lay down a small background of the book and a background of the author. So there is a very distinct beauty about Russian authors. You are going to read Tolstoy, you're going to read Chekhov, these are the two more popular ones, and you're going to read others. And there is a kind of a running pathos in all of them. There is that, distinct sadness, melancholy note in all of their writings. But at the same time, they tend to be very, very crisp and beautiful. It's hard to imagine that Tolstoy's writing will be crisp, but if you actually read the text and how he writes, it is very, very pointed, even though the volume of the book is large. Chekhov has mastered the short story game, and he's also known for his plays. And Chekhov's time is somewhere around the Tsarist time in Russia. So if you see the story, if you read the story is also sort of thrown around 1870s or so, where the Tsars were still in Russia. This is pre-revolution. And it's a beautiful time which he, sets up in the story. It's a time of gentlemen and gentleman promises. Uh, and a time where, this predates contracts. So what the bet is about, if I am able to summarize the plot in a gist, is about two people who meet over a dinner party and they have a bet with each other saying that is death penalty better or is life imprisonment better? Now, there is no way to sort of actually win this bet, right? I mean, this is a matter of opinions whether death penalty is better or life imprisonment is better. So they decide to do the proof of concept and come to a conclusion that one of them will sort of imprison himself for the next 15 years in order to prove that life imprisonment is better than death penalty. Now, why I chose the story with discussion for discussion with lawyers of tomorrow is because death penalty seems to be a theme which keeps on visiting lawyers and law students time and again. Often than not, we will be locked in these moral questions as to whether death penalty should be allowed, it should not be allowed, whether even if it is allowed by the Constitution, uh, should it allowed to be subsist or it should be set aside. You will go through several judgments of the Supreme Court when you study criminal law, which speaks about parameters where death penalty can be given or not be given. However, this is not a discussion for lawyers, but this is a discussion for people who want to do the law. And I would take this opportunity for you to, think very deeply about this very, very important question because tomorrow, as lawyers, as judges, hopefully not as the accused, you will come across this question where you will discuss the many aspects of death penalty, right? I also work as a prosecutor, and therefore this question, is something which also, comes to my mind again and again, that eventually what you are arguing for is that a man should be hanged or a woman should be hanged. In such a situation, in such a situation, should this be allowed or should not be allowed? So I have a comment, interesting comment from Anab as we are going around. It says, should it be allowed after considering the extent of the crime, or shouldn't it? So I'll come back to this, Anab. It's a pertinent point, but let's just go into the story a little bit. So I hope this short story was circulated to you. The bet, it's freely available. I mean, if you want to, as we are going through the discussion, and it's barely 4 or 5 pages, so you can do a quick read as we are going along as well. But let me sort of, begin to set up what we say the atmosphere in with the story cast. So I'll just read out the opening paragraph, and then I won't read the whole thing, but I'll go through certain important lines and questions we can dwell. So I'm just starting out with The Bet by Anton Chekhov. This is the version I have has been translated by Constance Garnett. It says, it was a dark autumn night. The old banker was walking up and down his study and remembering how 15 years before he had given a party one autumn evening. There had been many clever men there, and there had been interesting conversations. See how beautifully he writes and opens. Among, among other things, they had talked of capital punishment. The majority of the guests, among whom were many journalists and intellectual men, disapproved of the death penalty. They considered that form of punishment out of date, immoral, and unsuitable for Christian states. In the opinion of some of them, the death penalty ought to be replaced everywhere by imprisonment for life. I don't agree with you, said their host, the banker. I have not tried either the death penalty or imprisonment for life, but if one may judge a priori, the death penalty is more moral and more humane than imprisonment for life. Capital punishment kills a man at once, but lifelong imprisonment kills him slowly. Which executioner is more humane? He who kills you in a few minutes, or he who drags the life out of you in the course of many years? Now, before we begin to see, certain arguments for and against death penalty, let's do a quick vote of the people who are here as to how many of you feel that death penalty should be legal. Could we just have I mean, you could just, write for or against in the chat box, and I'll have some idea. Okay. So again, I have Anna who says for, then I have Soumya who says for, then Grishma says for, Parvati says I support for, Arman says for, Ayam says for. Okay, anybody else who cares to have an opinion on this? Okay, great. So now, given the fact that everybody is for and nobody is against, by default, I'll assume the against position. So let's now discuss the arguments which are done for and against in the story itself. Somebody observes, both are equally immoral, observed one of the guests, for they both have the same object to take away life. The state is not God. It has not the right to take away what it cannot restore when it wants to. Amongst the guests was a young lawyer, a young man of 25. When he was asked for his opinion, he said, the death sentence and the life sentence are equally immoral. But if I had to choose between the death penalty and imprisonment for life, I would choose the second. To live anyhow is better than not at all. So now the question these guys indulge in is not whether death penalty should be there or should not be there. Beginning this, at the starting of the story, we have this discussion whether death penalty should be legal or not. But now the discussion translates into something else. Between life imprisonment and death penalty, which is more tougher? And this entire perspective, I would remind you, is from the perspective of the person who is going to be sentenced to this crime, not from the perspective of the administration, not from the perspective of the society, not from a third perspective. So I'll do again a very, very quick test. Everybody here has said that they're in favor of death penalty. But now I would want to ask you, which do you think is tougher? Again, a quick vote, please. Okay, now Soumya says life imprisonment is more difficult. Life imprisonment, life imprisonment. Interesting. Okay. So now all of you have come down to whenever we speak of the maximum punishment which can be given to a person is death penalty. So my question is, if you feel that life imprisonment is the most difficult of all punishments, it's clearly more difficult than death penalty, why have death penalty at all? I mean, if the idea is that life imprisonment, there's nothing worse than that, then why should we retain death penalty on the book? Can anybody try and answer that or attempt to answer this? If you can, okay. So, Praveen, is it possible that Soumya can speak up? Soumya, we'd like to hear your voice if possible.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, Vamika, and I'll repeat the question. So the question was that when I asked you, the first question was, which do you think that death penalty should be legal? Almost everybody. In fact, everybody answered that death penalty should be legal. My second question was, as the story progresses, that between death penalty and life imprisonment, which is more difficult? And everybody said that life imprisonment is more difficult. So my question is that if life imprisonment is the most difficult of all punishments, why should we have death penalty at all? That's my question.
Sir, the question is a bit tough, but the right to live is taken.
Yes, that is taken. You're absolutely right, Soumya. But that's the idea of, the beauty of being a lawyer, that there are no mathematical answers and there will be no wrong answers. Anag, I'll just come to you. We'll just hear Soumya out and then we'll just come to you. But the question is, see, how do we justify death penalty if we feel that life imprisonment is the worst possible punishment? That's the question.
Sir, just end the person. It's impossible to tolerate a person with um a very much crime. Like,
Okay. So let's say if you're a judge, okay, let's just put this situation that you're a judge
yes,
and you come across a person who's committed the most heinous sort of crimes. Let's say crimes involving murder, robbery, sexual harassment, in my opinion, the worst sort of crimes, animal cruelty, all of these crimes which you feel are a really bad set of crimes, right? And you, as a judge, have the full power over this person to pronounce either life imprisonment or death. And let's also assume that, the case is proven against the person. So, in such a situation, as a judge, which you feel is going to be a more tougher punishment?
So life imprisonment for sure.
You sure? Okay. All right. Fine. Now we'll hear, I think the next comment was from Anag. Anag, please go ahead.
Yes,
You
sir.
wanted to say something?
Hello,
Thank you,
sir.
Samya. Thank you for your comment.
Sir, so I would like to state that, okay, let's say the person has committed a grave crime, like you stated, and see, if we keep him in a jail, even though if it is life imprisonment, he's a liability onto the government also. You're keeping him there, you're feeding him, you're sheltering him. Yeah, it might be more tougher on him mentally, physically, not seeing anybody, but still he's a liability onto the government also. And considering all that, I would say just take the person's life. It might be a bit mercier or humane on him, but it's not a liability onto you, and the parents or the victim side will also have a satisfaction that they got a like greater justice when they see the person who did the crime or any injustice towards their family.
Okay, Anag. So if I am to understand your proposition correctly, you feel that it is humane, A, because one, it's going to be a liability on the society, and secondly, it's going to be a lot of emotional turmoil on the person himself or herself. Additionally, it's also going to be an emotional roller coaster for the family. I mean, appeal to appeal, court to court. But the question
Yes,
is, if you're
100%.
thinking, yeah, right? That's your proposition. But if you're thinking in these terms, would you be okay to give the option to choose to the convict as to, which do you think is better? Because arguably you're speaking on behalf of the convict, right?
Yes, sir. But I also would say I wouldn't do that because I'm in the position of the judge and I was rightfully given that. So I wouldn't ask the convict or the accused to do that. It would be entirely my decision that you're getting this and this is what you get for what you have done.
All right. We have a strong judge in the making. Thank you, Anag. Your point is taken that you would rather pronounce a judgment, but allow the person to choose it. Okay. I'm seeing now the chat box has lit up. Very, very happy to see this kind of participation. I am noting down all your comments. I'm reading them out as many as I can, but I will continue involving you. I mean, the questions or the input which we are not taking orally right now, I'll involve you in, coming to a different part of the story. But quickly, I'll read out the comments. So we have, I am saying, we have it so that same thing is taken from a person, what he has taken from some other person by murdering him, in this case, in his life. Okay, very profoundly put. So, an eye for an eye. That's the logic. Okay. Uh, uh, we still are wondering if that'll make the world go blind. Okay. Next. Not all people perceive, Mishti writes, not all people perceive that life imprisonment is difficult than death and vice versa. Everyone has their own perspective. Not only this, the victim or their families may be satisfied with the latter than the former, depending upon the gravity of crime. Nonetheless, I stand for no death sentence shall be given because no one else should have the right to end someone's life. Ending someone's life will be no solution, in my opinion. Okay, fine. Point taken. So I finally have company with me where Mishti says that life imprisonment should not be there. Should be there, but death penalty shouldn't be there. Okay. Then I come down to the next comment. It's Parvati who says, because someone who did some worse crimes should shouldn't even be allowed to live, but sometimes they should suffer their lifetime inside a prison. Depending on the crime they did, it should be given accordingly. Okay, fine. So we have a lot of reasons coming down to saying how life imprisonment, eventually this theme which says that it slowly sucks the life out of you as compared to something which is, taking your life on a more immediate basis. So it's more cruel, it's more justified in a longer term, especially if your crime is heinous. Okay, but let's continue with the story. Let's keep this thought on one side and let's continue with the story. Okay, so the story goes on. A lively discussion arose. The banker, who was a younger and more nervous in those days, was suddenly carried away by excitement. He struck the table with his fist and shouted at the young man, "It's not true. I'll bet you 2 million you wouldn't stay in solitary confinement for 5 years. If you mean that in earnest," said the young man, "I'll take the bet. But I would stay not 5 but 15 years." So see the self-confidence this person has. He could have had those 2 millions for even 5 years, but he says, "I'm even willing to sort of, live it out till 15." If you mean that earnest, said the young man, "I'll take the bet, but I would stay not 5 but 15 years. 15 done. Gentlemen, I stake 2 million. Agreed. You stake your millions and I stake my freedom," said the young man. And this wild, senseless bet was carried out. Look at the line. Look at the way in which Chekhov writes. He could have written the bet was carried out, but he says, and this wild, senseless bet was carried out. There is sometimes a beauty in very, very small, simple words used in the right time. When you're using it in the right place and at the right time, the line, even though a single line, becomes very nicely. Okay, now I am going to skip a couple of parts of this, and this whole discussion goes between them, saying that this is going to be far more difficult for you because you are going inside voluntarily. You're not going into this bet, with any compulsion. So if let's say that you can walk out of the door at any given point of time in these 15 years, the choice is completely yours. And then, you choose not to go out, it becomes more difficult. So this is self-imposed solitary confinement. In any case, the bet is carried on, and I am just skipping a couple of paras, and the conditions of this bet are put. So the conditions I'm not reading again, I'm just summarizing them for you. So the first condition is that he's going to be put in the banker's own garden under his supervision. He is going to have no human contact for the next 15 years, not even by letters. He can't see a person at all. He's entitled to get anything which he wants, which includes foods of his choice, it includes books of any kind, music, wine, tobacco, whatever he wants, that will be supplied through him. And he can write out, small orders which are going to be slipped out from a door. And once those orders are received, they'll be delivered to him. But this entire purpose is this whole thing is designed in a way to a meticulous order so that there is absolutely no human contact at any point of time. Okay, these are the terms of the bet. And so the bet begins for 15 years starting 12 o'clock on November 14, 1870, and it ends at 12 o'clock November 14, 1885. The slightest attempt on his part to break the conditions, if only for 2 minutes before the end, release the banker from the obligations to pay him 2 million. Okay. Now, how many of you would be okay if I were to tell you that I'm going to give you two, let's say, let's put an equivalent of 2 crores. All right. And I say for 2 crores, 1 year you're going to be locked up in a room with no human contact. How many of you would be okay with that? Could I have a quick vote? I mean, just think about it for a second and let me know. Arman says not okay. Parvati, 1 year. That's all. I'm not going to put you for 15. Okay, so everybody is saying not okay. If okay, Anak says 1 year, then yes, sir. Smart boy. Okay. Mishti, I'm saying that let's say the bet was, between instead of the banker and the lawyer was between you know, all of us. And the question is, for 1 year you're locked up. Would you be okay for 2 crore rupees? Where remember the conditions of the bet. You can't hear, forget even talk. You can't hear a human voice. Forget talking to a human being. Soumya writes, funny. Okay, I mean, I need to prepare for an exam. It's fine. Okay. I'm happy lawyers don't lose their sense of humor. Okay. Very, very quickly, I would first want to hear somebody who's not spoken and tell me that why they're not against. Okay, so Vamika, could you tell us, Vamika, you are saying yes or no? You're saying not okay. Vamika, you could share your opinion why you're not okay with this. Praveen, could you activate Vamika to say something? Okay, I think we're getting over that. Can she speak now? Yeah. Vamika, I'm told you can speak now. Give it a shot. She's saying she can't unmute. Vamika, I'm told you've been given access to speak. Try unmuting yourself again. Okay, we'll come back to
Yes,
you.
sir. Can you hear
Yes,
me now?
yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead, Vamika.
So I won't be okay even if it's a year of no human contact. As for
Hmm.
me, I think human contact is necessary for people
Hmm.
actually live their life and express their emotions and communicate. So it's better for their mental well-being and as well as physical well-being. So they'll be able to live a better way if they can communicate with others and understand their feelings and express their own feelings.
Okay. So let's say both, we all have our opinions about whether this bet we are willing to take or not. But now let's just shift this perspective from an individual perspective to a more societal perspective. Suppose you're the state. Should people be allowed to keep these bets or not? If there is a person who says or she says that I voluntarily want to give 5 years of my life away being locked up in a room without any human contact and I get paid for it. Do you think a bet such as this should be allowed?
So I don't think it should be allowed. I think it can affect a person a lot mentally, even if they do this voluntarily. You never know,
Hmm.
a person can have severe effects of being locked up for 5 years without any
Hmm.
human contact, which may be harmful for them later on. If not now, then maybe later on it will have severe effects on them.
Okay, so let's say if it is, let me sort of just push the envelope here. Let me just contrast this to a question where this discussion has been going on for time immemorial, whether it's okay for a person to take his or her own life. What are your views on that? Do you think a person should be allowed to end his or her own life if they wish to?
No, so I don't think they should be allowed to do that.
Okay. All right, fine. So then, in that sense, I mean, your question comes to your question, your view is, let's say, in consonance with that. Anybody else believes that people should be allowed, like suicide or attempt to suicide should be legal. It is legal now, by the way, but anybody who says also agrees with this proposition, they should be allowed. They should not be allowed. Okay, Parvati says it should be okay. Parvati, can we hear you? So the interesting thing is, Parvati, you said that this bet should not be allowed because this bet will amount to ruining voluntarily a person's mind. But you are
Hmm.
also saying a person should be allowed to commit suicide. Could you reconcile both of these?
Yeah, because a bet would mean they're willingly doing that to gain something, right?
Okay. So the
And
problem here you feel is that it is immoral to give up your life for money. But it is immoral, it is perfectly moral that if you feel that you don't want to live and there's no monetary angle to it, that decision should be allowed.
yeah, because suicide is something that is done as mercy for themselves, right? If they're struggling with something,
Okay, so okay, so let me just put a proposition to you. What if a person says that I'm really bored and I want to commit suicide? Or,
again, I think that should be all right.
that should be all right, okay? Or a
That
person
shouldn't be, that
says,
shouldn't be.
that shouldn't be all right, okay? Or if a person says that, is dejected in relationships or, uh, does not crack an exam or has bad marks or, any of these, there are no health
No,
related
I'm
reasons.
saying I'm saying about the people who are actually psychologically not okay.
Okay, but then there's a difficult situation there. If they're psychologically not okay, then do you think they are in a fit state of mind to take that decision for themselves?
It would be like mercy killing, right?
So see, we are not talking about euthanasia, right? We are talking
Yeah.
about suicide. Euthanasia is a very specific kind of
The suicide for themselves is like mercy.
suicide, but not always, right? I mean, suicide may or may, I mean, euthanasia is a kind of a suicide, but
Yeah.
euthanasia is usually associated with medical reasons, where a person has terminal illness or a very painful disease. But I am speaking
There
about the
also,
fact that without assigning any reason, simply because a person says that this is my life, I have a right to live this, I also have a right to end this. Should
yeah,
I?
that should be okay. It's their own life.
Okay, so if you feel that that is okay, why will you not allow this bet?
Because if they are willing to live, then they shouldn't be made to do something that will ruin themselves.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I'll not trouble you any further.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So one opinion which comes in here is that you're going to see this is how when you're going to sort of come into the field of law, that there are no simple answers, and there's these themes of death sentence, life imprisonment, suicide, euthanasia. They always have very complex moral answers. They're going to be answers which are going to vary by degrees, and everybody is going to have a different reason why they are for something and they're against something. This is the beauty of law. Okay, we'll continue with the story. I'm just going to jump a little bit, and then I'm going to come down to, very quickly cover his 15 years. So I'm assuming most of you have read the story, and he describes, how a person is locked in for 15 years in that particular room, and how the year change, I mean, how what he or she does changes year by year. So in the first year, for example, he asks for different kinds of books. He asks only for classics and plays, piano in the morning and at night all the time. He refuses wine and tobacco. Uh, yeah, and says that wine and tobacco spoils the air, and wine makes your passions excitable, and therefore you'll feel even more depressed by not seeing anybody. But look at his second year, which is in complete contrast. In the second year, the piano was silent in the lodge, and the prisoner asked only for classics. In the fifth year, music was audible again, and the prisoner asked for wine. Those who watched him through the window said that all the year he spent doing nothing but eating and drinking and lying on his bed, frequently yawning and talking angrily to himself. He did not read books. Sometimes at night he would sit down to write. He would spend hours writing and in one morning tear up all he had written. More than once he could be heard crying. In the second half of the sixth year, the prisoner began zealously studying languages, philosophy, and history. He threw himself eagerly into these studies, so much so that the banker had enough to do to get him the books he ordered. In the course of 4 years, some 600 volumes were procured at his request. It was during this period that the banker received the following letter from his prisoner. Okay, before we go into the letter, how many of you have read 6 books in the past year? Forget 600. And the course books don't count. How many of you are regular readers? Okay, so Parvati is a regular. Mishti reads. So one, I just want to sort of, take a small pause and speak to you at this time, because all of you are aspiring to do law. Law is one career where there is going to be a lifetime of reading. You're going to read and read and read and read. But the good part about a well rounded lawyer is not that he or she only reads the law books. It is very, very important for a lawyer to have a well rounded personality and have a good general idea of the whole body of literature, a little bit of science, economics. Maths is something which I hate, but I'll throw that as well, a little bit of maths. But a lot and lot of history, philosophy, and the classics. These are things which are going to help you as a good arguing counsel, where you're able to sort of cite anecdotes, keep the court engaged, express your case better. So for everybody who reads here, please, that's a good thing. This you're already off to a good start in the profession. And whoever doesn't read, I mean, it's always a good idea to start. Once you have friends in books and dogs, you don't need any other kind of friends. Okay. So, anyways, after 6 years pass, he writes a letter to his jailer and he tells that, if I have memorized, you know, I know all of these languages and I have learned so much. So, if you are going to test me, I'm sending you these translations. You can get them tested by any linguist, and he's going to certify or she's going to certify that there's no error. And they carry out the test and they find this true. But what is interesting is the profound change you're going to find in the banker's thinking in the 10th year. And the tenth year paragraph is very, very important. Then, after the 10th year, the prisoner sat immovably at the table and read nothing but the Gospels. It seemed strange to the banker that a man who in 4 years had mastered 600 volumes should waste nearly a year over one thin book of easy comprehension. The theology and histories of religion followed the Gospels. In the last 2 years of his confinement, the prisoner read an immense quantity of books quite indiscriminately. At one time, he was busy with natural sciences, then he would ask for Byron or Shakespeare. He would There were notes in which he demanded at the same time books on chemistry and a manual of medicine, and a novel and some treasure on philosophy or theology. His reading suggested a man swimming in the sea among the wreckage of his ship and trying to save his life by greedily clutching at one spar and then at another. Can somebody tell me and explain what in your opinion is happening in his mind in the 10th year and the last 2 years? So anybody who has not spoken till now, anybody would want to explain this? Please just send me a shout out and then we'll hear you. Okay, Amrita, would you want to give it a try? Arman. I think we've heard Vamika. What about Grishma? Okay, Grishma, could you sort of share your opinion on the speaker? Uh, Praveen? Grishma, I think you've been made audible.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
So I think in the beginning, when he was in prison, he read various books, he played the piano, and he was a bit distressed as even his cries were heard. But then later on, towards the end of the book, we can see that he has changed and he has accepted the reality. And whatever books he had, whatever piano he played, as in the beginning, he was not doing it as a time pass, and now he has taken lessons from it and he has made the best of it.
Okay. But can you explain why in the 10th year he focuses on God and theology? What do you think happens there in his mind?
So I think after reading various books, like he has read 600 books and then which contained on various themes. So I think by the 10th year, he has finally realized that connecting to God is basically understanding the real meaning of life.
Okay. All right, let's pause there. Let's think at that point of time that at 10th year, you're absolutely right. He begins to, see that he's read so much, learned so much, and he feels, the underlying theme of all this is the divine. But then what happens in the past 2 years? Again, he begins to read indiscriminately. Why do you think this switch is happening? If he surrendered to God, like in the Indian concept, we have this concept of sannyas, right? Where you
Yes.
surrender everything else and you finally accept God. But he does not seem to be doing this. He dwells on God for a year or two and then goes back to reading everything possible again.
So I think, I mean, towards the end of the book, but because I have read the entire book, I'm saying this. He says that he has seen various things
Okay, okay,
of
okay,
the.
okay. I won't let you give the plot spoiler. Amrita, any other reason? Can we hear Amrita now? I think Amrita, have you understood the question now? The question is why this switch? In 10th year, he's focused on God and divine books. And in the 15th year, closer to his 15th year, he's gone back to reading indiscriminately. Yeah, Amrita, can you hear us? She says her mic is not opening. Amrita, please try again. Okay, fine. There's a glitch. We'll come back to you. All right. Uh, Thank you, Grishma. I'll come back. I will come back to you closer to when the story ends. So, in any case, this is how he describes 15 years. And you see the story now breaks and it goes back to the present time. Till now, the banker is remembering the past 15 years at a time when the bet was made and was supposed to be carried out. And then he goes on, comes back to the present time when he does not have the same kind of economic leverage he had 15 years ago, and that he's strained for money and he feels that, this bet was a stupidity. But there are very, very profound lines which are there. And especially, I would want you to read this one. Why didn't the man die? He's only 40 now. He will take my last penny from me. He will marry, will enjoy life, and will gamble on the exchange. while I shall look at him with envy like a beggar, and hear from him every day the same sentence. I am indebted to you for the happiness of my life. Let me help you. No, it is too much. The one means of being saved from bankruptcy is disgrace, and disgrace is death of that man. So at that point of time, he realizes that, this guy is about to win the bet. You see the amount of confidence he had at the beginning of the story, that, he was willing to sort of give him this money even if this guy locked him up for 5 years. But now, as true to his word, the lawyer has, served his 15 years. And the way out he feels is therefore to save himself is to kill this person. Okay. So thereafter, you see, not only does he decide to kill him, you read the next couple of paragraphs, he decides to kill him in such a manner that the suspicion would first fall upon the watchman. So far from being a gentleman, he was there at the beginning of the story, far from, catering his conditions. You see a complete character transformation in both the characters. There is one person, who's gone through 15 years and 15 character transformations. But you also see a complete character transformation in the guy who kept the bed. In any case, we move on. This guy decides to finally go to his room and, plans on killing him. And we begin with these lines. Poor creature, thought the banker. I hope all of you have this text. Poor creature, thought the banker. He is asleep and most likely dreaming of the millions. And I have only to take his half dead man, throw him in the bed, stifle him a little with a pillow, and the most conscientious expert would find no sign of violent death. But let us first read what he has written here. The banker took a page from the table and read it as follows. Now, anybody who has a text in front of them of the bet? Anyone if you who has the text? Okay. All right. Soumya and Anab. Okay, Anab, please go ahead. Can you read beginning tomorrow?
Sure, sir. Just a second. So is it in the last page?
It is at the last page. Second last page, actually. Tomorrow
Second
at 12
last page.
o'clock, I regain my freedom and the right to associate with other men.
Oh, at no other time, even when he had lost the heavily on the stock exchange, is that it?
No, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, I regain my freedom and the right to associate with other men. This is a letter written by the lawyer when this banker
Oh,
comes.
okay. Yeah, sir, got it. Tomorrow, at 12 o'clock, I regain my freedom and the right to associate with the other men. But before I leave this room and see the sunshine, I think it is necessary to say a few words to you. With a clear consciousness, I tell you, as before God, who beholds me, that I despise freedom and life and health and all that in your books is called the good things of the world. For 15 years, I have been intently studying earthly life. It is true, I have not seen the earth or men, but in your books, I have drunk fragrant wine, I have sung songs, I have hunted stags and wild boars in the forest, I have loved women, beauties as ethereal as clouds, created by the magic of your poets and geniuses, have visited me at night and have whispered in my ears wonderful tales that have set my brain in a whirl. In your book, I have climbed to the peaks of Elbrus and Mont Blanc, and from there, I have seen the sunrise and have watched it at evening flood the sky, the ocean, and the mountain tops with gold and crimson. I have watched from there the lightning flashing over my head and cleaving the storm clouds. I have seen green forests, fields, rivers, lakes, towns. I have heard the singing of the sirens and the strains of the shepherd pipes. I have touched the wings of comely devils who flew down to converse with me of God. In your books, I have flung myself into the bottomless pit, performed miracles, slain, burnt towns, preached new religions, conquered whole kingdoms. Your
Let's
books
stop.
have.
Let's stop here. Let's stop here.
Okay, sir.
Can you see the quality of writing? You know, this paragraphs, these set of paragraphs, please remember, are the condensed wisdom of 15 years of being confined in the room. They're not only knowledgeable, but they're also deeply introspective and meditative. For 15 years, a person who's read more than 600 volumes of books has dwelt on God, has experienced wine, has played music, and has had a long time to think, right? Comes up with this beautiful rendition of how, using books, he has been able to travel and experience everything in theory, even not though in practice. Okay. Soumya, you also have the text in front of you. Can you read from where Anak stopped? He stopped just before your books have given me wisdom.
Yes, sir. Could you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Your books
Can
have
hear
given
you.
me wisdom, all that the unresting thought of man has created in the ages, is compressed into a small compass in my brain. I knew that I am wiser than all of you. And I despise your books, I despise wisdom and blessing of this world. It is all worthless, fleeing, illusory, and descriptive, like a mirage. Sorry. You may be proud, wise, and fine, but death will wipe you off the face of the earth as through you were no more than mice, browning under the floor, and your prosperity, your history, your immortal geniuses will burn or freeze together with the earthly globe. You have lost your reason and taken the wrong path. You have taken lies for truth and hideous your beauty, hideousness for
Hideousness.
beauty, hideousness for beauty. You would marvel of if, owing to strange events of some sort, frogs and lizards suddenly grew on apple and orange trees instead of fruits, or if roses began to smell like a swelling horse. So I marvel at you who exchange heaven for earth. I don't want to understand you, to prove to you in action how I despise all that you live by. I renounce the 2 million of which I once dreamed as a paradise and which now I despise. To deprive myself of the right of the money, I shall go out from here 5 years more from the time fixed, and so break the compact. When the
Let's
banker,
stop here. Let's stop here. Okay. So I'm just reading out the last para again for the emphasis. To prove to you in action how I despise all that you live by, which referring to the banker, I renounce a 2 million, of which I once dreamed of as a paradise and which now I despise. To deprive myself of the right to the money, I shall go out from here 5 minutes before the time fixed so as to break the compact. So 5 minutes before these 15 years, our lawyer friend decides to give up his claim on the money, consciously breaks through and leaves. And the story ends with, obviously the banker who had come inside the room, reads this, starts crying to himself, kisses the lawyer on the forehead and quietly goes away. And next day, the guards come and tell him that, just 5 minutes before, 12 o'clock hit and he would have won the contract. They saw him leave, escape from the premises. And the last line is equally, equally deep. He says to avoid arousing unnecessary talk. He took from the table the writing in which the millions were announced, and when he got home, locked it up in the fireproof safe. Okay, one question on the story, and then we'll take 4 or 5 minutes to discuss some of the themes. But one just last question: why do you think he did not destroy the letter, but he actually keeps it in the safe? Can anybody attempt this question? Why would he keep a proof of this? So I think if I've got your name right, Aditya, Mishti, again Vamika. Okay, so Anak says maybe it was a memory of the bet or something like that. Okay, I can tell you why I think. You see, this person had decided to kill the lawyer. And when he realizes what the lawyer thinks, or the kind of wise person he's become, and the lines say that how everything is fleeting and everything is illusory, and everybody is going to die, a death just like the common mice does. Then I feel, at least this is my opinion, and there's no right answer or wrong answer, uh, that I feel he keeps this as a reminder. I mean, something in tune with what Anurag is saying, not only of the bet, but of the lesson learned. Okay, so I think we hit 1 hour, and that is the cue for me to stop. I'll just take 2 minutes to sort of ask you this question again, which I had started at the beginning of the question. How many of you still agree with death penalty should be kept? Can we again have a quick vote? Okay, agree. I agree. Fair enough. So again, I don't have all the votes, but most of the people feel that death penalty should still be kept. All right. How many of you feel that life imprisonment should be banned because it's a really cruel thing to do? No, Soumya again says no. Anybody else? It should not be banned. It shouldn't be banned if the prisoner still gets to interact with others. Okay, but Arman, are you saying solitary confinement should be banned? Okay, yes, solitary confinement should not be there. All right, fair enough. Uh, we've got a whole range of opinions. Most of you say that both life imprisonment and death penalty should be there. But before you come to any opinion, and this is the reason why I chose this story, is to simply, and Anand gives us a lawyer's answer. I would say it's totally circumstantial, or like based on the case. So yes, every set of facts have to be seen in their own light. But this exercise was, more targeted not about whether death penalty should be kept or not, but an exercise how a lawyer should think or ought to think. Uh, no answer is going to be a clear answer. No answer is going to be a clean answer. And it's quite all right to have your opinions, even if you feel very strongly about something at the risk of being popular or unpopular, that does not matter. But you should have clear reasons why you're saying what you're saying. And on that note, my bet here in this evening will be that you've been such a participative and interesting audience that I would bet on the fact that all of you are going to, qualify the CLAT paper in the time to come. Hopefully, some of you will, end up in my college. Some of you will be in Bangalore. Some of you will be in Lucknow. Some of you will be in other law schools. And if we get a chance to meet in person, I'll be very, very happy to meet you. And my parting advice would be keep on reading. With that note, I'll say a good night. Thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you to Praveen, who was here throughout this session. I would also like to thank two people who helped me out in preparation today. Prasoon and Aditya in my chamber helped me out with the notes. And of course, thank you to Surabhi Modi Sai, I think, who's somewhere in the clouds right now, catching flight between two places, for giving me this opportunity. So over to you, Rightful, to uh, Praveen. And rightfully said, a lawyer can argue any side of the matter. Thank you.